What is feedback? According to Wiggins, feedback is information about what was and was not accomplished given a specific goal. It's not enough to capture information about whether or not a student is on track to meet a learning outcome, which is the role of formative assessment. This information needs to be returned to the student with suggestions for next steps, which is the role of feedback. Think for a moment about your current practice in formative assessment and feedback. What do you say to your students about their work? How do you say it? With critical feedback, the tone can be just as important as the content. Do they take notice? If they're not, think about why. How much does it help their learning? How well does it relate to evidence of achievement of intended outcomes? How efficient is it for you? You need to use assessment and feedback strategies that produce a reasonable workload. Carlis identifies some common feedback pitfalls. Students don't want feedback that lacks specific advice to improve, is difficult to interpret, or has a negative impact on self-perception and confidence. So be sure that your feedback includes explicit, actionable steps, is explained with commonly understood terminology, identifies both achievements and areas for improvement, and cannot be taken personally. Sadler describes the conditions necessary for a student to benefit from feedback. First, the learner needs to understand the goal or standard they are aiming for. Next, they need to be able to compare their actual or current level of performance with that goal or standard. Finally, the learner needs to engage in an appropriate action which leads them to closure of the gap. You can think of this in terms of navigational guidance. You need to know where you want to go and where you are now before you can determine the best path to get to your destination. Where does the student fit into all of this? When the instructor assigns a task with goals and criteria, the student then needs to draw on what they know about the subject, what they know about learning strategies, and why they are motivated to complete the assignment. Based on this, the student sets their own goals in completing the assignment, develops tactics and strategies to accomplish this, with the result being their learning outcomes. This is only visible to the outside through performance. Based on this performance, the teacher, or peers or employers, can provide feedback leading to a new direction or redirection. All of these events are internal to the student, with each providing feedback to the student through self-assessment and continuous monitoring of gaps. The development of this oversight in the student leads to metacognition, or an understanding by the student of their own learning process. The only opportunities for interaction between the inner world of the student and outer world are through the input of the assignment, the output of the performance, and the external feedback through dialogue. It is through this dialogue that you can assist the student with their internal processes. What are some ways you can do this? Nichol and McFarlane-Dick share 7 principles of good feedback. They surmise that good feedback facilitates the development of self-assessment or reflection in learning. It also encourages teacher and peer dialogue around learning and helps clarify what good performance is in terms of goals, criteria, and expected standards. Good feedback provides opportunities to close the gap between current and desired performance, delivers high-quality information to students about their learning, and encourages positive motivational beliefs and self-esteem. And finally, good feedback will provide information to the teacher that can be used to help shape teaching. Blackboard has tools that enable you to provide all of these types of feedback. Each of the communication tools allows you to provide feedback within the assignment, like in the discussion board as a post, a comment on a journal, blog, or wiki, or with direct contact through email. Feedback can also be provided within a test, quiz, or survey by providing item feedback. You can choose to provide feedback in the test setting options. However, you need to create the feedback yourself. Within each test item, you can enter feedback for correct answers, as well as feedback for when a student answers incorrectly. The Retention Center can be used to provide feedbacks to students regarding their progress in the class. Areas of concern are highlighted with a link to directly email the student about the alert. Feedback can be provided to students through the grading feature. In this case, the student is receiving feedback on their discussion posts via grade, as well as specific feedback entered by the instructor. More specific feedback can be provided using the assignment tool in Blackboard. This includes the use of a rubric, generalized feedback, and specific feedback through annotations and comments. Let's see what that looks like. Here, the instructor is grading a paper that was submitted. General feedback about the draft is provided to the learner, but the comment tool was used to provide more specific feedback. The comment feature allows you to place markers in the document, draw or highlight on the screen, or strike through text. Each of these is linked to a comment box in the margin. A convenient and time-efficient way to provide specific feedback to learners is through the use of rubrics. You can think of rubrics as grids that are pre-loaded with feedback comments. The row headings identify the criteria domains the assignment is evaluated with, while the column headings make judgments of quality. If a student is exceptional in the relevance domain, they receive specific feedback regarding their performance. The development and use of rubrics for grading and feedback will be covered more in depth in a future video. We've examined the use of formative assessment and the use of the results to provide feedback to your learners. Feedback should inform the learner and help them make learning decisions. The learner needs to know, where am I going? Where am I now? And how do I get where I need to go? Several Blackboard tools are available to provide feedback. To learn more about a particular tool covered here, visit the Blackboard help pages or contact an instructional designer at University College.